Hey everybody, thanks for joining us for Ellis County TV. I got the ball and chain with me tonight. You know, you guys don't realize how close she and I are, but we got a guest tonight.
Yeah.
And it's, let me show you who we got.
Andrea Walton.
Andrea Walton. You know, Andrea Walton she's currently a Midlothian ISD school board member, place 7, and she's up for re-election. So she's gonna come in tonight and tell us a little bit about what it is she does, and let the people know.
Up for re-election, you mean?
Yeah, what'd I say?
You didn't say it right.
What was it, Corpus Christi again?
Yep, it was Corpus Christi.
Okay, well, let me try that again. Hey, everybody. No. So Andrea Walton is stopping by tonight. She is a current...
City? Go ahead.
She's currently a Midlothian ISD school board member, place number 7. I think she's got an opponent, but she's been there for 3 years, and she's going to come in and she's going to tell us all about what it is that they do and what she does, and I guess she's going to ask them, well, I know she is. She's going to ask them to re-elect her for school board. So, seems to be a nice lady.
Yeah, she's really nice.
Yeah. She's redheaded. I told her, she was like my mom. Mm-hmm. But I think my mom was a fake redhead, but you never want to say that,
Well, do you remember her hair being that color when you were a little kid?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wow, she was bleaching it for a while.
Mary Ann had red hair forever. I'll never forget when, they had those back in the 80s or early 90s where all the women were getting their hair permed, real frizzy type of thing.
I had a few perms.
Mom looked like a little orphan Annie. You had some too?
I used to get perms all the time.
No, you had that big old bangs.
Whatever, and I had a perm too. I can only contain it for so long. I get mad at you.
Y'all see the horns on her head? Anyway, honey,
Oh my God.
we got a guest coming on tonight, so tell everybody you're happy they're here. Tell everybody you're happy.
Happy you're here.
All right, roll intro. Everybody, thanks for joining us. I have a special visitor tonight. It's Andrea Walton. You're Andrea. You're school board right now, correct?
Yes.
You're just running for re-election. Is that what the deal is?
I'm the current trustee in place 7.
And for Midlothian, current trustee for place 7, y'all. And what we'll do is it's easy to look at that TV, but we gotta look at that. When we go to answer, look in that screen. I mean the video, the camera.
Okay.
Because you're like me, no.
I'll just talk to you.
Yeah, you can talk to me. If that makes you comfortable. People dig that, I guess. All right. So anyway, Andrea is over here. She's visiting us today, and we're going to talk about everything that she does. Talk maybe a little bit about your personal business. I know you have an insurance company. Is that correct? We can talk a little bit about that, and we'll just get to know Andrea. How's that sound?
That sounds perfect.
Okay, Andrea, you wanna start out? I guess tell us who you are.
Well, I'm a mom. I think that's what I identify with first. I have 3 kids that have all gone through Midlothian High School. One is at A&M right now, and actually today.
Are they out of school now?
They're on spring break, and for spring break she went to Guatemala on a mission trip, and we've been spending the last 24 hours just balancing everything with the coronavirus, safely getting them back because their trip they're in Guatemala, but their route was not any longer the route to come home. So the groups had to divide and come home different directions and at different.
Are they flying?
She's catching a red eye tonight, and they were supposed to come back Sunday. So it's they're trying to beat any travel quarantines that are further than what we've already experienced.
Yeah, I think people are kind of going way overboard, with this. But I mean, you've seen the pictures, I'm sure, on social media. Every store's got empty shelves, and no one can find toilet paper.
Well, I think it's serious for people who have autoimmune diseases or underlying health issues,
Sure.
and I think it's real. But I also
especially
think
a respiratory kind of like cystic fibrosis or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think the average person probably has the stock and the supplies in their house not to have some of the crazy that's happening at Costco and some of the humor that comes with it is funny, but it's also serious because there are people who are having real health issues.
That is true. The older people right now, and we're not picking on anybody, but they come from a generation where they grew up in a smoking environment. Both my parents smoked, and they both died early because of it. So those kind of generational people are going to have. Sorry, I'm chewing gum. I should have spit that out, but they are going to have an issue with the immune system. My mother also had leukemia when she died, so her because of the chemotherapy,
Right.
she actually ended up dying of pneumonia. Not leukemia, so to speak, but because her immune system was nothing. And of course, she was supposed to wear a mask, and my mom was a redhead too, and she did whatever the hell she wanted to do, and but so those people, I agree. Yeah, they're going to have an issue. Hopefully not. Hopefully they'll eradicate it, or they'll come up with some kind of medicine to to keep us from getting it or spreading it. But
it's a good reminder just for regular health measures, and I know that it's impactful considerably to dual working families who now have to rely on childcare differently in the next week while school's not happening. Some school districts are taking 2 weeks. So I'm part of a leadership group of school districts across the state. So we've been talking about this for the last 3 weeks, knowing what each school district's doing and
I'm
different.
glad you stopped by because this is very important right now because you do have an insight on what's going on with the school district, whether and the coronavirus and how that kind of cohabitates, I guess. So I just realized how fortunate we are to have you.
Well, I think our district is amazing. Any given flu season, how we measure attendance, campuses, what's diagnosed, what absences are just for other issues, how it affects our staff, how it affects our students, not just by campus but by classroom, to look at attendance and to be able to see the impact in coordination with what CDC is telling us. So I have full faith in the way Dr. Ledbetter and the entire administration is planning, working with the Ellis County Emergency Management, working with our local county and city officials to have a coordinated plan. And it's been a plan that's been countywide. It's not just singular to our area. That there's teamwork that's involved. And for the previous few weeks, I've been hearing from other school districts and their approach and what their considerations were from Sanger, from Birdville, from Capel, Frisco, Allen, because of a leadership group that we meet regularly. And even our meetings, everyone in large groups, your meetings are in question because is it healthy? Is it what CDC recommends? But I think that overall... Do
you think it's a little panicky or...
I think the biggest risk is to people who have underlying health issues, and they have to take that seriously. And we have to be inclusive and aware that what may not be a risk factor for me could very well be for somebody who I don't even know what their health issues are. And so you take that in consideration for your employees, for your clients, for your children, for little babies.
Right. Yeah, they're back. I was talking to a couple of lawyers yesterday, and we were having a deposition, and when the lawyer from Dallas came in, I'm of the generation where you shake hands just like you and I did.
Hug or shake hands all the time, yes.
So he fist bumped me, and it didn't offend me, but he says, everybody's just kind of, they don't know enough. People say we're overreacting. Some people say we're not overreacting. Some doctors say the media is building this up. Some people say the media is not doing enough. We won't know, I guess, probably until this all passes us. But like you said, and I think people that are watching this understand that this is America, and we've had to fight 200-300 years, so it's going to be harder than some little virus to take us out, right?
Well, and I don't think we can operate out of fear at all. I mean, just basic care for how you wash, sneeze, and your awareness and respect for others, I think really is the answer. I know that next week with us not having school, there's a tremendous heart and care and concern for like dual working families where somebody still might be going to work, not have the ability to work remotely. And all day today we've been working with Manna House, and different parents have reached out just talking about what the school district's doing to still continue to provide food for families who are on free and reduced lunches. It's a real source. It's an expected source of nutrition, and if those children are home alone, how that's still going to provide for them. It's
those
serious.
are things that people like me, I don't even consider anything like that. So I'm glad you stopped by to talk to these folks about it. It seems like you're dialed in to what's going on in the district. And how long have you been on the school board?
I've been on the school board for 3 years. Okay. So this is my first re-election term. Mm-hmm. And in general, we have a really young board. So to have experience and be able to carry that over is beneficial for where we're at as a community, but where we want to be in the next 3 years through the growth that we're facing.
Progressive.
And as I think as partnerships grow too, because it's really nice to see how multiple school districts are working together very cohesively. Just yesterday, I was at a luncheon with Ennis ISD, Palmer ISD, and Waxahachie ISD, and just how we all sat there and were able to compare notes on the coronavirus or even on spring break. And
funny you should say that. I talked to Dusty Alter yesterday at lunch. I saw him, and we asked him, about Waxahachie. And yesterday, this is just yesterday, he said, "No, we're not gonna do anything different." And then today,
it's changing by the moment.
It's changing by the moment. So I'm glad there's some people dialed into that, And I'm sure these people, a lot of people who watch this do have younger kids. My kids are 26 and 39, just turned 39. So I have a granddaughter I got to worry about, but they're in Alabama. So my daughter will take care of her.
Well, I have two others. So I have a junior in high school who has some exciting news that she's going to be sharing here soon about some college choices and an exciting prayer that she's had for what her future would be. And then I have an 8th grader who is very sad from this week's events. There's band has been canceled, tennis has been canceled.
All activities, right?
All activities. Yeah. So it's going to be a rough week for families.
What about childcare? I mean,
I've had several childcare facilities in coordination with me, just trying to learn how they can respond, what they can be ready for after school programs that now are going to provide full day coverage. I don't want to speak for them, but I know that it's a community that's coming together for a real issue, and it's beautiful to see the partnerships, the communication. It's really nice to see everybody coordinating together, knowing that it's all to take care of our students and our kids.
Well, I think that's awesome. So, Andrea, Miss Walton, tell us a little bit about your insurance business. I know it's up there between Ovilla and Red Oak.
Yes.
So, do you feel comfortable about telling the people what you do?
Absolutely. Right. So I'm a State Farm agent, and I'm just outside of Ovilla in Glen Heights. I've worked for State Farm for 26 years. I graduated from Texas A&M and did a week of active duty, and then started right after that straight into State Farm. And I've worked for State Farm Corporate for 15 years, and then was fortunate enough to have an opening here in Glen Heights. And it's a beautiful.
Has it been good?
It's a beautiful thing to be part of a community,
Sure.
And I do just as much in Red Oak as we do in Midlothian, and it's a beautiful community to be able to support businesses, local businesses, chambers, and the students.
People that you live around every day, you get to interact with them on a day-to-day basis.
Community is everything. Yeah. It really is. And then to have people trust you and be able to walk in, and lots of new families interact first when they're with their bank and with their insurance agent. So that's your welcome to the community.
It's literally one of the first people they see is the institutions that you're talking about.
That's right.
House insurance, especially now. Oh
right.
My God.
And the way we're growing, it's lots of families just come through just to even have a conversation to investigate Midlothian, investigate the schools, and to be able to ask those questions and learn from them, I think makes us a better school district and makes me a better trustee.
Oh, absolutely. I went to the city planner's office the other day and got some figures of population, and we're just talking city limits here. We're not talking ETJ or district.
Right.
We're talking just in the city limits, 34,000 people.
I know. That's crazy.
35. Yeah, this is Midlothian.
So my husband grew up here, and he graduated in '89, and a lot of his friends are local coaches and principals of districts nearby. And when he moves here, he always talked about the one stoplight.
Yeah,
It was a one stoplight town when he moved here. But the other day, when I was working on an event through the Hall of Honor for the school district, I had the fortunate opportunity to talk to Miss Lawson Majors, and she told me a story about how when she moved here, she saw the first stop sign go up. So it was really nice to hear something that predated the first stoplight.
I can name a handful of the old people. Now Joe Forbes, maybe Joe Forbes. Remember, he always had a black suit on and walked all over Midlothian carrying a Bible. Do you remember that? Your husband would.
Well, he would, yes.
And so we had a guy that, special needs he would stand on the corner where our only light was, and he would hail Hitler to everybody that drove by. He's still around. They sent him off to a home a long time ago, but this, even though that he doesn't realize what he's doing, so he's in his own world, but he's part of Midlothian. He's our history, our heritage, type of thing. So you talk about the Lawson, because you got Lawson Farms out here.
Right.
That used to be a beautiful farm, with I don't know if it was Pee Wee or one of the Lawson boys, that all owned all those buildings downtown. So, and you live in a beautiful house too.
We live in the old Barclay house, and I had the opportunity last night at the downtown master plan with the city to talk with Mr. Webb and just hear stories. That was original. And so, the stories he told last night, as we were just looking at the future downtown projected plan of what the cityscape will look like, and its parks and its movie theaters, and it's just bringing people together. And it's proposed. I know there's a lot of work still to be done. So the room was full of people, but the room was full of stories. The room was full of people and stories, and new and exciting. It was history. It was great. And when you bring up Lawson Farms, I think of Miss LaRue Miller, and I think of a story, and I never knew Mr. Arnold, but I have heard the most amazing stories about the principal when we had two high schools, when we were segregated, the leadership and the humility that Mr. Arnold had when we became integrated. And Miss LaRue Miller was the one that shared that with me, how he was a principal, but he just became a teacher. Yeah. And was a unifier.
So you care about your community.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think, people, if they could see you got emotional just relaying that story, and that means you got a big heart and you really care about your community. You care about the people who came before us,
Yes.
And I think that's what people want to know. Too many times we've had elections around here to where people they weren't able to get to know the candidates. They would just they'd show up, and if they didn't recognize anybody on there, they'd just pick a name.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons why I started this show. I've told them that I don't want to take sides, but I want people to find out who Andrea is. Not just a picture on a sign or just a name on a sign. And because we all have a story, we all have a history, and I think I think people will look at you on what you're doing right now and see the kind of heart that you have. So,
well, thank you. I think there's a lot of people that have come before me that have been incredible mentors and servants who unify, and I think that's a really important thing.
We said in Marine Corps that we were standing on the shoulders of giants. The guys that came before us.
Right.
And that's kind of like what you're relating to right now, is you're standing on the shoulders of those people that did a great job before y'all got here.
That are servant leaders and had great vision, that laid a lot of framework that we have an obligation to continue.
Yeah. My oldest daughter is 39, graduated from here. I think she graduated in 90. No, I'm sorry. My wife graduated in 90. My daughter graduated. I'm getting all these. So my wife is 9 years older than my daughter. It's my biological daughter before her. Anyway.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I know I shouldn't. I'm going to have to edit that out. That probably didn't look great at all. Sorry. So you brought some.
That's a good story. There's a story behind everything.
Yeah, there is. Sometimes you forget that you're actually on video because you're just talking.
Well, this is such a good story.
Yeah.
But so you were talking a second ago how people go vote and sometimes don't take time to get to know who they're voting for. I think it's disheartening. It's disappointing that in elections of the past, our highest voter turnouts have been at 9%.
Yeah.
And we're
in the city. Or in the district, I guess, for you. For us, countywide, it was only 20%.
Yeah, that's still sad.
Yeah.
We have a foreign exchange student from Italy that's living with us. She's so we heard months ago about the coronavirus through her eyes of what her family and her community was going through.
Okay?
Everybody's good. But so they stopped school in northern Italy, and then it was across the country. So we heard about everything coronavirus through her, and I still should have gone and bought stock and toilet paper. I don't know how I missed that opportunity. But in her country, it's beautiful to hear how important the vote is and that 80% of the population votes. So I've always been a deputy registrar, just helping register people who move here in my office as they transition, just helping them update their address, become an Ellis County voter, and just talking about the importance of it. And then
it's super important, guys.
And then I started working with our high school seniors, and it was beautiful to see high school seniors so passionate about creating other voters. So now many of them have gone through classes. So high school seniors are helping other high school seniors register to vote.
That's how you got to do it.
We've probably been doing that for the last 4 years, and it's really, I hope it's impactful to them. And I know it was incredibly emotional to me during the primaries when high school seniors came up to me and were so excited to share their first vote.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I tell people, I've been into politics myself. I'm on my fourth term, 4-year term as constable. But I tell people that it's very important. You only get one vote. In my case, you get one vote for constable. You get one vote for president. You get one vote for place 7. Is that what you said?
Place 7.
Place 7 on the school board. So that's how important your vote is. That's the only one you got. But if you're the candidate on the other side, you got to realize how important it is for them to vote for you, because they're giving up their only vote possible, and they're taking a chance in you.
And I think it's what that vote represents. To think of all the people who've served, to have the freedom, for us to have that voice.
True.
To me, that's what that vote represents. And I've always tried to take my kids with me to vote. And I remember when my son was really little, he was so disappointed because he was like, "Where's the boat? I wanted to see the boat. Where's the," he thought it was a speedboat that we were going to get to see, and he was so disappointed at the conference center. But it was really touching on election on the primary day to see so many families and couples voting together, and our numbers are increasing. So and
Midlothian is a voting place.
It is.
So we're fortunate there. There's some other towns that we won't mention, but I don't know what the magic bullet is to get people to the polls. Obviously, if I did, I wouldn't be. I'd be elected all the time, but I think doing something like this where it involves. We're only talking about our community. We're not talking about Fort Worth, so it'll give these people a chance to come see what's going on in Ellis County, predominantly Midlothian. That's where I live, and that's what I know. But my precinct's also Ovilla and Red Oak, so
okay.
So that's how I know where your office is. I have to pass there sometimes, go by. So, Miss Walton, you brought some propaganda. What you got going over there?
Well, I was just looking at some information again that I love the partnerships that we have in town, and I love when it comes together to benefit our students. And I have some wonderful information from our 4B board or our MCDC. They were sharing with us last night at that meeting with the city that the partnership, every August there's a back to school mayor's bash. And so I've attended that every year, and it's beautiful, especially for students that are new to the district or on free and reduced lunches. So there's so many of our local businesses that come together that offer free eye exams, haircuts, reduced cost, everything that really serve our community. And they shared last night how much money and how dedicated they are to providing free school supplies for those students this August. So it's $95,000 altogether in a partnership between Manor House and MCDC, and to have them commit together to be able to provide that to our students. And if they don't show up for the Mayor's Bash, they're still delivering it to the classroom so it's ready for them on the first day of school.
Is Manor House kind of rawhiding? They driving the train on this?
Manor House is part of everything.
Is that Sissy?
It's Sissy, and
hi, Sissy.
I always see Crystal Gaither and Casey Cheshire with United Way. I mean, it's a partnership with so many wonderful people in the community.
Great people, yeah. Our community is phenomenal.
Well, we have the Pastoral Alliance that is the bedrock of all of that.
Sure.
That really we're all sharing that partnership because of just the selflessness that you see that translates through all these partnerships and through different organizations. And our businesses are so supportive of that too. So it all benefits our students, and it benefits our teachers.
Yeah. We even had Vicki Massey at one time. She used to have, and I've helped her out a couple of times where you see these people, literally that's all the food they were getting. And she was relentless. She lived that for those people.
It's her passion. That was her passion.
It was her passion. Hi, Vicki, if you're watching this, there's a special place when it's all done here. So
she's an amazing heart.
Yeah.
So it's an exciting thing that we already have local partnerships and businesses and groups that are planning now for what's going to happen in August. Mm-hmm. We have so many exciting events that are going to happen that will take place as soon as we're all back together and this pandemic and this scare is over.
Yeah.
And
it'll play out,
And we're Midlothian strong, so it's not going to stop anything that we're doing.
America. Well, I'm a patriot, so maybe a little over the top. This is your opportunity to tell the people what it is and why, to ask the people for your vote.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
So I'm gonna give you the platform.
Well, I think as a district, everything we do on school board is a team of 8. So we work all 7 trustees. We work closely with the superintendent and our wonderful administration and all our teachers at different campuses. We've got great parent support. We have so many blessings in our community that all come together to be the greatest benefit for our students. And I mean, that's what we just said. It's United Way, it's Manor House, it's our churches, it's with Janice Carey, with our Reach Council. I mean, we have, I know I'm leaving people out, but there's so many wonderful resources, and it's a true blessing to be in a role where you can encourage and support and bring people together. But I think our number one focus is what's happening in the classroom. That's my commitment is that
it's our future.
It's every choice of spending. I always evaluate: is this supporting a teacher? Is it going to be a result that we can measure first for a student for our future success of what happens in the classroom? And I think that's the greatest measure.
You say you've done this for 3 years?
I've done this for 3 years as a trustee, but when we moved here, we were active with the PTO at Petoskey, and we were redistricted to J.R. Irvin, and I was the PTO president at both of those locations. Mm-hmm. My husband and I have coached soccer with the Midlothian
so you've kind of been
Youth
with the youth
Association. We've taught Awana at church with, so we have 2 high schools, but I have babies that were my Sunday school students in each of those in each of those campuses, watching them grow and graduate and then move on and get married. I'm like, if I could feel old.
Hi, Mrs. Wall. No, does that pay anything, that job of?
Oh gosh, no, it's volunteer. See? And it's a passion. It really is to have the business side of it, but the compassion for how families really all come from different places, and it's our job to meet them where they're at, and and to help them be the most they can be, to help them explore their passions and balance the needs that they have. And when I say that, there's such a diversity, and as we grow, that diversity is increasingly an important factor that makes us wonderful.
Yeah, no, it has. Demographically, we've changed, but that's the nature of any small town. It's the nature of any city. I really don't want to stop growth. I mean, they're talking about putting more apartments over here just behind the Kroger area. That they're developing over there. I think it's preliminary right now, but there's some people that's already complaining about we don't want apartments, but they don't realize that there's people that want to move to Midlothian just like they did, and there's a reason. It's because of our school districts. It's because of our low crime rate. It's because of all these people that make Midlothian what Midlothian is.
Right.
So how do you keep people? I don't know how to word this. How do you circle the wagons and want to keep people from enjoying what you enjoy?
Well, I think you manage the growth, and if you love one another, you welcome your neighbor. And I think I've been very fortunate for the last 3 years to serve on the city school joint committee. So once a year we have a city school board meeting together. That's a full meeting, but once a month for breakfast we usually go back and forth between the smoothie place and Caroline's and Kim and Jenny's, and we have 3 school board members and 3 city council members. So and they kind of rotate a little bit, but I've been at each meeting because there's always an opening, and I'm always the first to do that because I worked with the city on the economic development for about 10 years before I ran for school board.
Do you have time to go to work?
I start early. I don't sleep much, but I start early. I think you learn to multitask.
I bet when your head hits the pillow,
I have a wonderful husband at home who helps balance it all.
You want to say hi to him?
Well, he's watching at some point. So, and then my kids. They each have responsibilities. So they have a part in what.
And they're seeing what mom does.
It's part of serving, it's part of giving, it's part of being a community. So absolutely. But I think when you sit with the city in school breakfast, you see the shared opportunities to share tax dollars, to share benefit, to be efficient, and to be responsible to the taxpayer. So I know that Justin Kaufman and Art Perard and the mayor, and then Mike Rogers will sometimes be there. So just working through some of the opportunities and the differences, it's helped bring us together as a community. So when you ask about apartments, they always share with us what developments are happening. So planning and zoning is a great place. They welcome the meetings, are public. I've attended a few of those, but really the information at these breakfasts tell us, what's coming. And Mr. Norris, oh my gosh, he's just a walking.
Now, who is Mr. Norris?
Jim Norris is our chief financial officer, and I think he's had every single job in the district. So, and you probably see his videos where he's always making the funny videos that we get every November that he shares with the teachers.
I didn't know I had competition. Now, all right. What was his name?
Jim Norris.
All right, Mr. Norris. This is my area.
So all of that planning, the city council members keep us informed on a regular basis, which helps us all make better educated decisions. And from an apartment complex standpoint, they've shared that there's a 10% limit on the population of a high density apartment complex living compared to the overall population of the city. That's the guideline that the city uses. And I'm not speaking on their behalf. That's just that's what I understood that they had shared. And so I think that it's great to go to a city council meeting. I've been to many, especially when our SROs are recognized, or we have shared partnerships with our students that are being recognized for EMT certifications or different internships that they work with in the city. But I think there's planning there that's intentional.
It seems like this, the more I listen to you, I don't think people realize how big this job is for volunteers like you and the rest of the school board. While you were talking, it just dawned on me that we're opening up another middle school up there off of was that Suda?
It's Dietrich Middle School, and Amanda
already named it
Dietrich, and it's after Earl Dietrich, Martha Lou and Earl Dietrich, which are also pillars in our community. He was a coach and an ag teacher, and she was a Spanish teacher.
He was a businessman as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Amanda Rogers is going to be the principal. She's an amazing leader.
Really? Mike Rogers' wife?
Different Rogers. Okay. Totally different family.
Yeah, and I know two Amanda Rogers. I think Mike's wife is.
So Ryan Rogers is a coach, and then Amanda Rogers is the principal.
Right.
And so that is getting off the ground, and it's very exciting to have that balance our middle schools between Walnut Grove, Frank Seal, and Dietrich Elementary now.
Jeez. And that school will probably be full. We've had a lot of population, and it requires people like you to manage what we're doing and to be for had the forethought, next year, if you just look at the trend, we're going to grow more.
Oh, yes. We're growing. We're slowed down just a little bit. The recent legislative session slowed because of some legislation that affected city council. I think they took a pause and looked at a very methodical, intentional way to move forward. That affected some of the housing starts. So we dropped down to 4.2% growth rate. But every quarter we get a demographic report. It's out there on our website for anybody to look at. And now we're increasing our growth probably upwards of 5% and going beyond. And it's predicted to happen for the next 5 years. So it affects traffic. It affects our parks, and it's that partnership of the city and the schools working together that allow us to provide the beautiful community that we have. Yeah. And it's our communication, and it's our involvement, and it's all of us as citizens who stay involved that keep it intimate and keep it vibrant. So it's personal, because it is personal.
It is personal. I mean, we might have grown to 34,000 people, but I'm still I still feel like it. I moved here when I was still in the Marine Corps, so it was real small. This was 93. Actually, I moved into a house where Kroger's sitting, or Chick-fil-A's sitting right now. They're sitting in my driveway.
Well, no, that's a sweet deal.
Yeah, but I'd sold that house before I moved here. So whoever owned that house made out, and I'm never that lucky. So, Miss Walton, folks, here's the deal. You have a candidate here who's already been on there. She's obviously passionate about this position. It's a volunteer position, and she's put so much of her personal time, to help our youth in our district. Please consider Andrea Walton when you go to. Let's tell them when the vote.
So early voting is April 20th, and that whole week it's 8 to 5. So all day long, it's at the conference center for early voting. Okay. You can do absentee voting. And if you have any kind of physical disability, I don't know that everybody knows, you can drive up and they'll bring a ballot out to you. So you can send somebody in and they'll bring voting out to the car. So you don't, if you have a walker, if it's inconvenient, I used to be an election judge with LaRue Miller. So,
yeah.
So I used to vote and see her there all the time. And then
she's such a sweetheart.
Amazing. And so it can be convenient. It's really easy to vote. They make it easy, and
it means something, y'all. Here's the deal. I know you've heard this all your life. I've even saw Mama Cass and John Denver on YouTube, and they're sitting up there young, fixing to sing early 70s, and Mama Cass is up there. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
I'm 60, so there's a big difference. But she's talking about it. Obviously, it was a voting season for the America when this was made, and she's up there even harping. It doesn't matter what party you belong to. It doesn't matter who your candidate is.
Right.
What matters is you go out and you cast your vote, and it really does matter. And I know the old cliche, don't gripe if you didn't vote. Yeah, that's one thing, but to vote means you get involved. You get involved in your community, because this is where it really matters. Yeah, the president matters, but school board here matters more to us as citizens than the president election or the governor's election. So it's very, very important for y'all to go out. And again, we have one candidate here, Andrea Walton, and just listening to her, she gets emotional about, and passionate about what it is the school board does. And I'm glad we have people like that. If you got to have people who will walk the walk, and it sounds like Miss.
And I think actions match my words, and I am connected to the community. And I also say that there's a lot of people who have different perspectives, and I respect that. I can't tell you how many people have been in my living room or I've met with coffee, that I invite them in, because it doesn't mean that we don't want to all be the same. We want to have different perspectives, and we want to be able to sit down and talk about it. So the first thing that matters is what's happening in the classroom. I'm proud to be able to describe what we've done for our teachers over the last 3 years that I've been on the board. We have given them a raise every year to be able to increase their compensation and be more competitive to the area. And we're always analyzing that compensation comparison. Our supplemental pay each November, that's kind of right before Christmas, which is helpful.
Really? Like a little
helpful.
Bonus?
It's helpful. And then we opened an express care clinic, so they can treat any illness proactively and their family, and it's subsidized by the district, so it's very affordable.
Really?
And then recently
Is that at a school?
it is over off Walnut Grove. There's like a medical clinic that's over there that they can call in, they can go in and treat, they can bring their family. It's a small copay. So we constantly watch the cost on that and the usage, because we want that. We know that healthcare is a real challenge in today's world. And we also added some additional compensation to cover their premiums if they choose to have this school healthcare, because there's a whole bunch of crazy going down, a hot mess in Austin. And when you talk about the TRS or the healthcare that's required, it's not so easy to shop it like you do, like I do as a business, as I could do for my family. It's a different set of rules with public education.
Sure, it is. Yeah, so they pay different. They pay indifferent and things of that nature. They don't pay Social Security, I don't believe, do they?
Well, there's like retire, rehire. My mom was a special education teacher, and she retired from Birdville after 34 years. So depending on who you're talking to, they may have retired and have Social Security, but some people have retired and they're rehires, and then that is a cost to the district as well. So that's why we have Mr. Norris to keep all that straight for us. And Caleb,
that's why he's a doctor and we're not, right?
So I think, when you look at what happens in the classroom, what's happened with your teachers, and then how we really try to enhance our communication with parents, that's a focus that we've all identified. The surveys that everybody fills out each May, it's taken seriously, and it's where we set goals and where we look to improve. And then it's always about the well-being of our students, the discipline, the anti-bullying, the ability to meet each student where they are. And that we have so much happening with the MILE, with our CTE certifications that are really coming to life.
You are dialed in, girl.
Well, if you have gone by the old J.R. Irvin, or if you haven't met Nikki Nix, or Shelley Blaylock, there is so much that they can share about cybersecurity and our culinary arts department, that there'll soon be a cafe. You might just have to take your whole operation straight down there for coffee in the morning, because we're going to have students who will be serving and running it like it's a business, and baking and
awesome idea.
Catering.
Yeah, awesome idea.
We have a lot happening, and it's pretty exciting.
Well, let me ask you this. In closing, unless you got something that you really want to say, out. And you're always welcome to come back if you think of something.
Well, thank you. Be careful when you make that offer.
No, I'm serious. And I would like, because I'm gonna get you on video here, I would like to ask that if you are reelected, I'm confident that you probably will be. Periodically, would you come back in here and let the people know, bring them up to date of their school district?
I would love to. I would love to bring a student, because I was at Rotary the other day, and a little girl, we were talking about community service, because it's so important that you mentor and that you encourage students to mentor other students, because if those students are mentoring other students, that creates the healthiest, safest environment, because your best first line of defense is students and their voice, to hold each other accountable and to share what's happening in the hallways. And this Eland stood up and just was endless with her responsibility that she has at Mountain Peak as a safety patrol officer, and took to heart what she's doing in her role to keep her fellow students safe. So it was pretty amazing.
Are you getting emotional again?
A little bit. I was really proud to see her. I thought she was going to stand up and share a few words, and she jumped up, stood at the podium, grabbed the microphone, and she took control of the room. And all those people at Rotary, they really got a good glimpse of what's happening at Mountain Peak.
I think that's awesome, and they'd be more than welcome to show up with you, and we're going to try to keep sharing these good stories with the people and let the people know. Here's the deal, Andrea. You and I were lucky. I'm a cop. I get to work local. You have a business and it's local, so we can really kind of intermingle with what's going on in the city. But a lot of people that have moved here, especially lately, it's like a bedroom community. They're commuting long distances to Fort Worth, and when they get home, the last thing they want to do is attend a meeting to find out what's going on.
And what's wonderful is our school board meetings are live now. We've worked really hard to make everything available, more transparent, so you can log on in your pajamas and you can see what happened earlier in the day or the day before, and click straight to the item that concerns you, your family, your campus, and know what's happening.
I think that's awesome. So y'all stay tuned. We've got expectations for Miss Walton. And Andrea, thank you so much.
And don't forget to vote. I'm asking for your vote. April 20th. That's early voting, and Election Day is May 2nd.
And I want to thank everybody for supporting this channel. And again, thank you to for Andrea for coming by. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
It's good music.
Yeah, and now we're out.
I didn't know there.
Hey, everybody! Before we let her go, we're going to hold her hostage for a minute, and we're going to talk about her service to her country. And we've already heard about her service to the city and to the district. Let's hear about her service to the country.
Well, I was very fortunate when I was in high school that I had a mentor. So that's why it's so important to me that we mentor our students and give them opportunities. I had an FBI director who was talking to me about opportunities in the FBI. And as a result of a path that he encouraged me to take, I joined the reserves.
What branch?
I was in the Coast Guard Reserves, okay. And it's a co-ed boot camp, and I graduated first in my class on a man's measure, and they gave me received the Navy League Award because of some of the records that were set.
Isn't that awesome?
And all I did was run 2 miles at 2:00 in the Texas heat, and look, I
didn't die.
To prepare to go for 9 weeks to boot camp, and who would have thought that Texas heat is really the best training there is?
Yeah, no, it is. And did you stay in the reserves for any length of time?
I was in the reserves for 8 years, and we did a little bit of search and rescue. We did drug enforcement. It was with the boats, and most of the guys I drilled with are all police officers, law enforcement out of Dallas or Fort Worth. My sister's a Fort Worth police officer for the last 20 years.
Really?
So she's worked in.
On here too. I bet she's got some stories.
Oh, she has some stories. Yeah, she's tough. But so I know that we have a community that's full of first responders and law enforcement, and I think we're
really first responder heavy here.
We are.
From all over the Metroplex.
We are, and I feel very fortunate to have a lot of their support in the election. Incredible support 3 years ago, and even more this go round. And I'm thankful for the values of what I've learned. I'm incredibly grateful for exposure that was provided to me that I wouldn't have otherwise had, and that's a passion for me, for our students to know that through the Civil Air Patrol or through ROTC, that the military can be a career path or it can be an experience that just is incredible learning, and
I think you grow so much when you're in the military. And obviously I'm biased. I spent 21 years in the military, but I think if you spend 30 days, 30 years, 20 years, whatever, you grow so much because you're learning how to play on the playground with all walks of life.
That's exactly right.
And you don't have any. I didn't experience, and this was in the 70s, 80s, and I retired in '99. But I didn't I didn't experience any hostile racism,
No.
At least in our little bubble. But outside the gate, it was just like, that's all everybody was talking about. It was black, white, Asian.
No, when you show up to work, all that matters is your work ethic and what your goal is, and everything else was set aside. So it
makes a good, strong person.
It does.
It teaches you to get along with everybody that's not like you.
That's right. And I always tell people I can work with anybody who's willing to work with me.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for your service too.
Thank
Coast
you.
Guard. I guess Coast Guard's a service, but
it was before Homeland Security, so it's a lot different now.
Yeah,
not Semper Fi, Semper Paratus.
Thanks. All right, I'm gonna let her go now, and she'll be able to steal away. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.